Hello everyone, welcome to the world of chemistry. Today we'll continue with few more techniques of separating mixtures. The first technique that we are going to deal is evaporation. This is a method used for separating a volatile component solid from a non-volatile component solute by heating the mixture. The meaning of the word volatile is which can easily change to gas. Now, for example, ink is a mixture of dye and water. If some ink is heated in a dish, the water evaporates and the dye is left in the dish. Similarly, we can separate a mixture of salt and water or sugar and water by evaporation. Let's see the method. Here the water evaporates, leaving behind the crystals of salt in the container. This method is evaporation. The next method of separation is crystallization. This is a separation technique that is used to separate a solid that has dissolved in the liquid. The solution is warmed in an open container, allowing the solvent to evaporate, leaving a saturated solution. The solution in which no more solute can be added is saturated solution. As this solution is allowed to cool, the solid will separate out of the solution and crystals will start to grow. The crystals can be collected and allowed to dry. The size of the crystals depends on the rate of cooling. As fast as the crystals cool, they will result in a large number of small crystals. But slow cooling will result in a smaller number of large crystals. Let's see the method. Children, you might have observed your mother at home when she prepares sweet. Obviously, she makes the sugar syrup. She adds sugar to the water and boils it and then allows it to cool down for some time. The moment the syrup cools, the fine particles called crystals, which have geometric shape, can be seen placed at the walls of the container. This is the natural way by which we can get the crystals. The next method of separation is froth flotation method. This is a process selectively for separating the hydrophobic materials, means the materials which have tendency not to dissolve in or mix with or wetted by water, from the hydrophilic materials, means the materials which have tendency to mix with water. This is used in mineral processing, paper recycling, wastewater treatment industries. Historically, this was first used in the mining industry, where it was one of the great enabling technologies of the 20th century. Let's see the method. Froth flotation method is generally used for the concentration of sulfide ores. The principle behind froth flotation process is that sulfide ores are preferentially wetted by pine oil, whereas the gong particles are wetted by the water. In this process, a suspension of a powdered ore is made with water. The mineral particles become wet by oil, while the gong particles become wet by the water. We can see the process is continuing in this method. A rotating pedal agitates the mixture and draws air in it. As a result, froth is formed which carries the mineral particles. The froth is light and is skimmed off. It is then dried for the recovery of the ore particle. Children, the meaning of the froth is a small mass of white bubbles on the top of a liquid, whereas the meaning of gong is valueless material in which ore is found. The next method of separation is distillation. In this method, we can separate solvent from a solution. We can also separate solutions of two liquids based on their different boiling points. In distillation, a solution is heated so that its solvent boils and escapes as vapor. The vapor is then cooled and condensed into a liquid called the distillate. So we can see the method here. In the distillation flask, the mixture of salt and water has been taken. The moment the heat is done from the distillation flask, the water starts evaporating and changes to vapor. The vapor then passes through the Liebig's condenser where it condenses into droplets of water and we can collect it in the beaker as distillate. You can see the arrow marks here and can recognize the method. See, the droplets of water are coming out from the flask and the residue is left behind in the distillation flask near the mouth of it. The next method of separation is centrifugation. It is the separation technique commonly used in clinical and research laboratories. It is based on the behavior of particles in an applied centrifugal field. The meaning of the centrifugal field can be well described by the example of merry-go-round that you see in the fair. That is the perfect example of how a force is used to keep an object moving in circular path. More dense components of the mixture move away from the axis of the centrifuge while the less dense components of the mixture move towards the axis. Let's see the method. In sedimentation process also the insoluble particles settle at the bottom, but when the particles are very light, then how to settle them? If we remain depending on this sedimentation method, then it can take days to settle. So, in such cases, we use the process of centrifugation. It is the process of separating substances of different densities from a mixture with the help of a centrifuge. Let's see the method. A handy centrifuge machine has been taken along with the muddy water and a mixture of calcium hydroxide and 4 centrifuge test tubes. Take the sample of muddy water and place in centrifuge machine. You can see the boy is doing that. And in another 2 centrifuge test tubes, take the sample of calcium hydroxide and place it in the machine. After that, the machine has been rotated fast for few minutes and then the machine stops rotating. Then the boy removes the test tubes and observes it. We can see mud particles and white PPT has settled in the test tubes. This is the process of centrifugation. In a centrifuge, as we rotate, the substances experience centrifugal force away from the center, which forces the materials against the wall. The amount of centrifugal force experienced by an object depends on its mass and the speed of rotation. Components of mixture get separated because the denser particles are forced to the bottom while the lighter ones stay at the top. With increase in speed of rotation, the lighter materials can also settle down. This centrifugation process is used in diagnostic lab for blood and urine tests, and we can also use it to separate cream from milk. So students, I hope up to this you have understood well